Hey, it's Neil. I'm back after a short break, also known as working again. So this week I'm talking to an amazing new band, Wellbeing. They came and worked with me early in 2019, around April, and we took our time getting everything right and ready. And now they are launching their first and, second singles. At the time this was recorded, the first single had just come out. It's an amazing song called The Lonely Ones. There'll be a little snippet mid-pod, but I implore you to go and check it out, plus the new single, A Garden No One Knows. As well as that, I'll be taking another trip down memory lane for another mix of Yore. This one I think is pretty special, so do stick around and have a listen. And as always, smash that like button or subscribe or whatever it is you're supposed to do nowadays. Anyway, enjoy. If you've had a listen, you know the format. Basically, it's just a Q&A kind of thing. A couple of musics, a couple of cultures, a couple of weird ones. Just want to get to know each other that little bit better, a bit more intimately, because obviously living in the same room as each other for 10 days wasn't intimate enough. But
No.
You just released your first single as your new project, The Lonely Ones.
Face up the evil that's inside you. You've got to be brave with all of us beside you. Scream, not today. We are the lonely ones. We are the lonely ones. When you're lost in the dark, still alive on the stars. We are who we are. We are the lonely ones.
How does it feel to get it out in the world?
It's relief, man. It's 3 years in the making to get to this point, and now it all just feels like I think we've been quite surprised by the genuine support we've received. Like, we haven't put anything out for between us 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. So you kind of think people have forgotten about us, but it's just been quite
it has
surprising.
been mad because we've all previously were in older bands and stuff around our local area, so we had we knew we had some people that were following us because of music prior, but we'd all been out of the game. I say out of the game for probably 4 or 5 years between us all, kind of keeping our toes in, writing or whatever, but to actually come out and have within 4 days, we've had a decent reaction to the first single. It's good because it's been a lot of, it's been a bit of pressure on ourselves as well, but a lot of time gone into it, and it seems already that it's nice to see a little bit of payback already. So it's exciting.
And to think the way your timeline was working out, you were probably looking to push this to people to have a listen at the exact moment everything closed down and stopped.
Literally.
Yeah.
How did you find that affected? Did that affect your sort of momentum emotionally or like?
We shot the videos for the singles we're putting out I think we had February for the first shoot. It was going to be three videos in 3 days, and the third day was when Storm Ciara hit the UK, and we were filming out in a forestry school out just outside of South Cerney, and the guy who owned the school was basically like, look guys, I'm not insured to have you here if shit starts to get real. So I think it was 9 o'clock on the night before we had to call it and say we're postponing it. So that was stressful. So we'd shot the last day 3 weeks later, and then the plan was to go straight into the edit the following week. And I think the day we were booked in to go down to London to edit was the day Bojo put us on lockdown.
So basically when that happened, we then had the predicament of deciding, do we wait to edit these in person or do we do it remotely, kind of like this? And obviously we decided to go remotely because we'd been waiting probably now, August or September.
Now.
Yeah. To even consider editing them. So it was difficult because we had this timeline kind of down in our heads, and we'd worked on the videos, and for it to then kind of just be out of our hands, just put back. Even now, releasing when we did literally 4 or 5 days ago, we were a bit we're releasing in the middle of a pandemic, because we don't know when we're going to be able to play live. We can't plan that into everything, so we just it has been it is definitely risky, and it has been quite scary, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally imagine that it's been weird. I know a few bands that have just parked their entire project. So one artist I've been working with for a while, we're just building up a head of steam, just kind of got to the point where we're they were talking to reasonable labels that were interested in working with them and stuff. So we had a meeting maybe 4 or 5 days before lockdown, probably maybe actually a week or two actually, but it was that kind of, that that little period before lockdown where I was like, oh, this is actually getting pretty real. I'd gone up to London and it was quite quiet when I went, but I was seeing people in masks for the first time because I hadn't really done anything for a while. Yeah, and then we just got to park it. And now everything's kind of spooling back up. We can start picking up the phone again. Or they can start again pick up the phone. I'm not in the band. I'm talking. Yeah, and obviously a few bands have just kind of shelved records or put back release dates, I should say, for a few months. It has been weird, hasn't it?
It has been super strange.
Yeah.
At least you got a bit of a captive audience online to have a little look at it and generate a bit of organic buzz.
I think that's really what we were thinking. We weighed up the pros and cons of releasing during lockdown or waiting till after, and we kind of thought it's the only time everybody's kind of glued to their phone throughout the day. And obviously I know a lot of people are going back to work now, but there's still the majority of people that are kind of looking for things to occupy themselves, and we thought, we've got a fair amount of content to come, so we can kind of maybe keep everything coming at them so that they can invest in what we're trying to do, so when we are able to go and play live again, hopefully we've got an audience to actually go and play to, rather than have to build up playing to empty pubs.
You're not necessarily thinking you've got one hook to get them on. You've got a bunch of tracks with videos and stuff coming. So.
Yeah, I guess that's where the taking our time with things and taking a couple of years to plan it all together, put it all together, that's kind of now paying in dividends, because we know that we've got X amount of months worth of stuff to keep us going. To get us up to 2021 really, and that's kind of the plan now, is just kind of do what we can this year, and then hopefully build up a bit of something around this project, because obviously we've put a lot into it, and the meaning, and also we felt the actual meaning of the music would resonate quite well at the moment, being that people have been locked away and people are suffering mentally, and we felt if we can somehow help with putting our music out there and giving someone something, a bit of reassurance and positivity, then that's sick.
That's probably a good segue to sort of introduce the band a bit, like introduce yourselves, and obviously the absent friends, but also a little bit of the backstory. I know you've probably gone over this time and time again now, but it is kind of unique, and I think you'll get to this as well. But Alex's kind of situation as well is a really interesting, kind of like super positive kind of story.
Yeah.
So go for it.
So I was lucky enough to have grown up in a group of friends that had stayed together since we kind of met when we were very young. I've known some of the guys in my group since I was 6, and I moved here. So we've all been very tight knit. And then in 2017, I was around my mum and dad's house watching a game of football, got a phone call letting us know that one of our friends had made an attempt on his own life. So we all kind of got back together, went up to see him for the next 3 days in hospital. We lost him on the 4th days, and we were kind of like, we connected over music over the years. So when I was kind of in the hospital, I was like, this is what I need to do as something positive out of something really tragic. So it took 3 years, but here we are. And obviously with Tay, what is it? He's got like 40% hearing.
Yeah, I think with Tay, it's a bit of a crazy story, and I don't think either of us will probably do it justice. Tay's got an incredible voice and has been singing since he was, probably, I guess, what was like 14, 15. I remember, because I'm a bit younger than some of the other guys, I remember with Tay, I remember hearing him first in one of his old projects with Jay, funny enough. And I was just kind of, at first, it was like, I've not heard a voice like this from this area, like, without it being kind of maybe from another country like America or something. He always blew me away, and I actually learnt about his story joining this band, and he's, apologies Tay if I get these figures incorrect, but I'm pretty sure he's like only got like 20% in one ear and not much higher in the other. It was actually quite funny when we was at the studio, when he would take his hearing aids out at night, like he was pretty much, you could say anything about him and he would not hear you.
I love the way you could say anything about him. Not that you could just talk and he wouldn't hear it. You were sitting there taking the piss out of him. That's great.
The thing is, this comes from him because he kind of makes light of it. But obviously for him, he spent probably years thinking he would never be able to do this again because of that proofs in the pudding where he's come together. And I mean, the fact he actually records without his hearing aids, that's crazy.
I've got a memory of being in the studio and I'd kind of noticed that he had hearing aids, but no one had said anything. And I didn't want to be the like, so how's that working out?
Yeah, true. But
when he started singing, there was no problem at all. Like the pitch was really good. The delivery was really good.
Yeah.
Obviously that we paid attention to some things, just like phrasing and timing and stuff like that. Once I kind of understood the situation, it was I kind of had a bit of a worry bead, like like a singer with hearing difficulties. Not just for me, like who cares about that? But like emotionally, if it doesn't go well, like he was absolutely brilliant. And I played the song to my partner the other day and just saw like, she was like, it's really good. Like, yeah, good voice. It's like, yeah, well, while we're talking about that, the guy's lost loads of his hearing and he's fucking great. So I think that's a really cool, really positive story coming up against adversity like that and absolutely smashing it out of the way.
Yeah, he's killed it.
I remember being sat in there. It was my first time like actually working with Tay in a band, and I just remember kind of being sat in that exact room and just hearing him belt some of these notes out, and I genuinely remember getting goosebumps and thinking,
sure,
like this guy
absolutely.
can, and especially when you take into account the story, it's super impressive and I often forget, it's very, when you're close to him, it's very easy to forget that he even has that problem until, it kind of comes up, and, he did a real nice post about it the other day, obviously, when we released, and it's just like, it is remarkable.
Absolutely. So who are we missing? Who's missing from Wellbeing?
We are missing, obviously, Tay. We're missing Nick Messer, our guitarist, and Max Elderfield, our drummer extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I've got some from like a music nerdy perspective, just because you've got the dream life as far as I'm concerned. So, what is it that you like so much about the whole recording and production side that you couldn't find in being in a band itself? Like, I know you've spoken in the past that you didn't really click with that side of things. So what was it that made you think this is for me rather than that?
I don't know. That's a really good question. That's a cool way to kind of like phrase it or ask it, because I definitely remember being like, I am sick of being in a band, this is bullshit. But it's only bullshit because of me and because of other factors, but mainly because I don't know what it was at that time in my life. I couldn't sleep past 7 a.m. And if you're touring, the band I was in toured a lot. I mean, it was shitty venues in a shitty van, all that kind of stuff. You weren't guaranteed like a bed or anything like normal and human like that. I would get 3 or 4 hours sleep a night every night for tours that were like 4, 5, 6 weeks long. Yeah, ground against me. One of the guys in the band, they were all really nice people to be in a band with. I'd never had any problem like that. One of them was very into boozing, and a few times there would be situations where that kind of rubbed up against me the wrong way a little bit, especially when he tried to vomit out of a moving van window and just went behind him directly into me. And it's just those kind of experiences where you're like, I'm 21 or whatever. I can't even remember how old I was when I was doing it. And I think objectively we're not actually that good. and I'm covered in sick, sleeping in a van. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. But I had kind of invested myself into doing music kind of stuff. And I think is basically when that stopped, I'd done it when I was a kid and really loved it. When that stopped, I still wanted to keep writing, and that led to me recording things. And I got a real buzz out of doing that. I don't think I was very good at it. And and I think it just appealed to the bits that I was quite good at, I think, like arrangement, harmony, kind of like understanding how different timbres and instruments can work together, and it appealed to me at that kind of nerdy level. I'm one of those people that when I was a kid, I'd get into something and I'd absorb as much as I could about it, and at various points I could say you the horsepower of every car you could get, or Arsenal's scores over like a 40-year period or some like nerdy thing like that. And then I couldn't do that to save my life now. That faculty is gone. That memory is gone. But I think the kind of nerdy bit of it, of understanding how things work together, and the fact that every time you do it, it's different and it's a challenge. I really like meeting people and hanging out with people, and it kind of combines all those things together, really. And importantly, I got a really, really good opportunity, like finding a space, which is often the hardest thing. Especially like I wanted to be like a recording engineer. It wasn't like at the start I wanted to, nowadays like you can find amazing producers that work out their bedroom, that find an artist they want to work with and kind of book a studio when they want to use it. I didn't think like that then. I probably would now. Then I was, I wanted a desk for whatever reason. Hardware de-esser or something. I think that's it really. It ticked a lot of boxes that suit my way of thinking. It's kind of creative and technical and challenging, etc. Got a bit of an opportunity, and I never, I was never so broke that I couldn't make dinner or pay the rent or whatever.
Whilst doing something you enjoy, that's the main thing.
Yeah. There's a few times
Yeah.
it got pretty close. I just think on the other side of it, I found it easy to understand why bands got into drugs when I was touring, because you just fucking hours doing nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
So boring.
So you could totally understand why after you got to the Hull Adelphi at 4 p.m. for loading and you got nothing to do for 6 hours, like, you know, I'm pretty sure it's easier to get heroin in Hull, judging by the needles in the car park. You could totally understand why people get into that shit.
Yeah, I think I saw something with like the guy at the Sex Pistols give an interview years ago, and he was kind of like, a lot of people get judgmental about musicians that get obviously hooked on various substances, but he's like, if you're playing to so many people and you're getting that energy for like maybe an hour a night, and then the rest of your day is sat around in green rooms or on the bus, it's like you've got to have something to match that high. Otherwise, you're just going to be in peaks and troughs with depression. And he was kind of like, it's really obviously dysfunctional, but it just fills the space between. So you can kind of understand it even at the smallest level, I think.
Yeah.
I can't even...
Totally. Even more so at the smallest level than at the point when you're touring in a bus and maybe you can even have your family around you kind of thing, or you can, when you're in the back of a old post office van or something, and you know, you've got fuck all to do for 6 hours. I could totally understand just getting blitzed to get through the day.
Yeah, I mean, you hear of Billie Eilish tours with her entire family in buses.
Yeah.
Takes her parents.
Yeah, that would be...
Which sounds mental until you've done it once, and you're like, God, I'd love to sit and have a cup of tea with my mum instead of sitting in the back of a van, you know, like.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I guess I'll just be glued on fucking Instagram.
I guess that's the new addiction, though, isn't it? That's kind of the social media addiction. That's a whole nother topic.
So each of you, what would be, if you had like a theme song, what would it be?
So this theme song, like, does it sum up your life?
Yeah.
Is it like a...
I think it's just your what's your vibe?
Oh, wow.
Dude, I know exactly which tune to pick. Oh my God. Have you heard Dinosaur Pile-Up's latest record? There's a tune on it called Back Foot.
I'm always on the back foot. Yeah, I'm always on the back foot. Yeah, I'm always on the woo. Yeah.
Oh, I love Back.
Oh my, what a jam. That's my jam of the year from last year. It's just ridiculous. And at the time I was working minimum wage job, just waiting tables, and I was like, this is like he's in my head. Like,
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
the grooviest riff as well. Just everything. It's kind of, it reminds me of like the punk rock version of the Fresh Prince soundtrack.
Yes, it's got that weird, it's not a rap,
Yeah,
but it has a flow, exactly.
yeah, it's the skate park version of Fresh Prince, I think.
It's really funny. Yeah, that I could get that. That's got a bit of like a, oh, fuck my life kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I'm quite manic. I'm sure Jay can probably agree to this. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah, guy does not stop.
So like I'm into my old school stuff because I'm just like constantly like 24/7. I'm either working towards something with a band. I'm either working on a business or whatever. So like for me at the moment, because of how my where I am mentally, I'm just a million miles an hour. I'd probably choose Whiplash by Metallica.
Incredible.
Super rapid, super fast, and just relentlessly non-stop. That's how
great.
that's how I currently feel. So
That's brilliant. Yeah.
you probably ask me tomorrow, it'd probably change. But
Yeah, I suppose
considering-
that's the thing, isn't it? But
Yeah. But at the moment, because everything's even though we're in this lockdown time and it's a bit strange, my head's constantly on the go, and that's just I'm just a bit of a workaholic, so that's probably it's a good and bad thing. I'm sure my girlfriend will think it's a bad thing. So, but yeah, so that's a bit of little bit of a curveball there.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
What would yours be though?
Oh shit. Oh right, I tell you what, Midlife Crisis by Faith No More. How's that? Bit on the nose, isn't it?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll probably, like you say, I'll probably think of another one later on.
So my question is based off another one of your hobbies that I've learnt or seen that you really enjoy. and that's cocktails. And I feel like we have something in common there.
Yeah, we bonded over that, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. So my question to you is, what is the Neil Kennedy signature cocktail if you had to choose one? And I think I know the answer.
For anyone that knows me, the answer is a Negroni. There has actually been a Neil Groni made
No way.
on a cocktail menu for my birthday.
Where is this? Is this local to you?
It's in a bar. My partner did like a surprise birthday thing for me, and
Nice.
it was in a bar which we wouldn't normally frequent called Orange Rooms, but they were fucking great. They did such a good job of like, it was in like a private little bar and stuff, and they developed like a whole menu for the night, like a menu of cocktails kind of thing. So there's some that me and my partner got very different flavour profiles. So there was, some for her, some for me, and so some for a bit of everyone. And it was
Amazing.
It was basically just, as far as I remember, it was just a Negroni been made with Bobby's gin, which is obviously a bit spicier and
Because gin's your thing, isn't it? That's like your big thing.
yeah. I think, to be honest, since you were last in, my thing is moving more into just cocktails rather than
Just in general, yeah.
Yeah, but I've actually, apart from on Friday when it's my anniversary, I haven't drunk for 6 weeks or five or 6 weeks. I've been
Yeah,
just
I feel the
sober,
same.
which I've genuinely not found to be a problem and enjoyed. I wouldn't say I feel very different, but when I woke up on Saturday after having a few drinks, I felt like fucking shit. I had to do a Zoom workout at like 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, and oh mate, it was awful. I haven't felt like that in a while. It was really grim. I just kind of like anything a bit different, a bit weird to try out. The only thing I've found that I really hate is aquavit. If you've ever come across aquavit, that fucking Scandinavian liqueur that tastes like caraway is rough.
I've heard of it, but I've never tried it.
Just fucking throw it in the sea if you ever. It's horrid. What about you? What would be yours?
Oh, I'm an old-fashioned guy.
Oh, lovely.
I love an old-fashioned. I don't drink a lot of them, but when I go to a bar and there's a cocktail menu and they've got an old-fashioned, specifically with Woodford Reserve, that's my go-to cocktail. Love it.
What about you?
Oh, dude, I don't drink, so I'd have to say PG tips and semi-skim.
Cool. What's the most spontaneous thing you've ever done? Have you ever done something like really spontaneous?
I'm like the least spontaneous dude. I overanalyze everything.
Right.
I'm one of those. Literally, the most spontaneous shit I do is on eBay in the guitar section at 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah. I've done that, yeah.
It's not that fun, really, I don't think. So it's literally, like, I guess it was a real spontaneous night because had some friends that came over. It was Christmas probably like 4 years ago. We have some friends in New Zealand that came over as a surprise, and one of our friends organised it. And obviously we didn't know about it, so it was a super spontaneous kind of night out for food. We went to Brasserie Blanc, which is like kind of like Raymond Blanc's kind of. It's quite a nice restaurant. Everyone was really excited because we hadn't seen each other for like 5 years, so that was like super spontaneous. We went there, and then things kind of got slightly out of hand in terms of like we were drinking what we shouldn't be drinking in like a restaurant like that. Bearing in mind we're surrounded by couples, families on a Saturday evening. There we were, us and a bunch of New Zealanders all just drinking loads and loads of wine. I actually didn't realise that I was actually getting spiked with Tabasco in my wine at the time. That's how I was kind of a bit drunk at this point, as you can probably imagine. So red wine and Tabasco is not a great mix. And then, one thing led to the other, and then I viciously puked underneath the table in the middle of service in Brasserie Blanc. Like kind of hands to the mouth kind of thing, where it literally came out everywhere.
Oh, no.
And then so this is why I kind of said it's not the most spontaneous thing, but it's quite a funny story.
Sounds like spontaneous vomiting.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And then obviously we were then asked to leave, and then everyone in the restaurant got free food, like free desserts because of me. And I've never been able to go back since. And the awkward thing is, and my girlfriend hates me for this, is that was where we had our first date, so we can never go back there of me.
Oh no.
So spontaneous in a weird way, but maybe a funny drunk story.
Yeah.
When Daly first moved to England from South Africa to work with you, was there much of a language barrier there? Or?
Oh, Daly. I just remember. I don't even remember the origin story of why you thought Daly was from South Africa.
Honestly, dude, for like the first week, I was like, Daly. I'd never heard the name Daly before in England, and I was like,
what about Daly Thompson?
I don't know who that is. No idea.
Oh.
But he was like, I don't know what it was. I was utterly convinced that he was
I think we all were.
Like, I think I'd watched Blood Diamond like the week before, and I was like, oh, it just sounds like Leo DiCaprio.
So weird.
I remember Dave just turning. I remember his face when we said that, and we said, "Oh yeah, we thought you were South African." He just turned around, and the face was just like,
What?
he was just so confused. That's a good.
Where's he actually from? Is it like Guildford or something?
Yeah, he's from like Surrey way. Yeah.
So
It was a compliment today, though. I'm not sure.
it wasn't. Yeah, we didn't mean it in a bad way.
I heard something really interesting the other day. A friend of mine works with a South African artist, and he just by the by was saying, oh, South Africa's like the last place you can get real good bargains on like that kind of 60s, 70s, 80s gear, because in that era there was tons of money pumped into the industries, and there's loads of studios built up that just disappeared in the 2000s. So people have got hordes of like cool old Neumann mics and consoles.
Jeez.
And you can get a few bits of gear. And he basically said, oh, well, if you ever see a, insert old bit of gear here, let me know. And about 4 days later, he called him up and said, yeah, I found you one. It cost me 150 quid. Like, you're talking like over here, just tons of money.
Crazy.
What's the shipping cost like from South Africa?
I mean, it's quite far, so it won't be cheap, but I mean...
But cheaper than buying
It's
one.
still cheaper than buying one,
Yeah, it's worth it, getting on South African eBay and seeing what you can find.
Jay's new hobby has just been discovered.
South African Gumtree. That sounds like a safe place to do business. Right. What piece of art has touched you recently? So over the last year or so, what piece of art have you found resonates with you? Music, film, book, painting, picture?
Hard not to go with a series because that's all I've done for the past. Oh, have you seen on Amazon Prime there's a series called Tales from the Loop?
I have, and I watched the first 10 minutes and thought this is going to be really good. I need to concentrate on it, and just stopped.
I think I know what you mean. It's one of those where the visuals definitely kind of outshadow the story itself, but they're so good.
Right.
And compelling. I think it's based on I want to say Swedish, I could be wrong, but a Swedish artist.
Right.
Had loads of concept art for kind of like a dystopian world set in kind of 80s, and I don't know, I just think the cinematography is so impressive, and the essence that they captured with it was really, it kind of makes you want to create your own stories. I love art that does that, makes you want to fill in your own gaps kind of thing.
Very cool. Yeah.
I don't know about you.
For me, I'm gonna go the music route. An album by a band, and actually then seeing them live. So it's actually The War on Drugs, A Deeper Understanding. Like that album for me, for like the time when I discovered it. I mean, what an album! It's a great album. If you haven't heard it, check it out. But then seeing them live, it blew me away how they captivated an arena, and there was just no interaction between them or the crowd. It was just pure music non-stop. It was like there was no talking, no kind of like, hey guys, I just remember that evening, and then that album for some reason that stuck for me as one of the best like live shows I've seen. For me, there was just something about that show that really connected to me. When I discovered that album, it was just it's going through like a bit of a weird time, and that resonates for me.
Brilliant.
Here's a good one. With the current situation, and obviously I think like we can all agree that life might change slightly after we come out of this pandemic and how people approach things. Where do you see the music industry going, and do you see the whole streaming thing becoming a much bigger part of life for bands and live music, and not just live music but even like sports, rather than as we know it?
I don't really know. I don't think I'm clued in enough on the mechanics of the industry to really understand what they're thinking, but live music I think is going to be kind of hard to... I know people that are booked tours for November, and as we tick over into July, it's beginning to feel a bit like, oh, maybe November isn't going to be okay. Because even if it is quote unquote safe, I still don't know if people, like everyone's... I mean, I'm probably talking bollocks because you see the pictures of the beaches lately, like people clearly have no problem going out. But I'm not gonna be going to somewhere like that for a long time, I don't think.
Yeah,
no. It's like this Saturday, isn't it? It's like, it's the 4th of July, it's the big date at the moment where pubs open and stuff. And I live in a flat opposite a pub, so I'm going to be very intrigued to watch from a distance and see what's going to happen. Yeah. And, see, because it's got a beer garden, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think what I've noticed throughout this whole thing is the whole streaming element and the Zoom calls, and everything has increased massively. Going back to what we're doing, it's scary to think that we're released as a band and we don't know or can't even predict when we might get the opportunity to even play live, especially even next year where it's going to be swamped with everything from this year and 2021.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a weird one.
It is weird. My hope is that in this time, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this shit, because every experience I've had is not what I want to see. I think emotionally intelligent people have taken this time to reflect on a bunch of shit and figure out what they can do better. And I thought, because I was doing that and my peers are doing that everyone was doing that. But I don't think that's the case. I think the sad thing is we live in such a divided society now. It's so polarized and partisan that I think half of us have sat back and gone like, well, I can do this better and I can be a better person in this way. And other people have just thought, what can I get out of this? But what I hope for the industry is they sort of think about how they can make it work better for everyone. But I don't think they will. I don't think for a minute they will.
No.
Kind of slightly more grassrootsy level, I kind of hope people have just thought, right, okay, well, look, we've got plenty of time on our hands. Let's look for some new artists and see who's doing things that are different or things that are really great. I've had a few conversations with people from the industry in this period, and I've been like, do you actually want to hear some stuff? And I found that kind of like question in the past, been like, I'm pretty busy right now with what I'm working on.
Yeah,
but I found over this period, people have been like, yeah, definitely anything for me to kind of engage with and, kind of reflect on and get the brain in gear. So hopefully there'll be maybe some exciting new projects happening, new acts coming out. But honestly, who the fuck knows? Who knows? Right, I'm going to get to my last question. It's my classic. Have you ever seen a ghost, or do you have a ghostly tale to tell?
Dude, okay, so the only one that comes to mind was I don't know if have you heard of the Old Ram Inn? It's in a little rural village called Wootton under Edge, which is kind of a few miles past Stroud. And so the guy who owned it, or still owns it to this day, I think, he bought it with his family years and years ago. Says that within the first couple of days of moving in, this is graphic, but he claims to have been raped by a succubus in his sleep. So he said there's an incubus and a succubus that live there, and he said the succubus is just game for it every night with him. So he eventually.
Why did you have to say it like
so well, but apparently his family moved out because they were like, this is just weird, and he now lives there on his own, and he opens it up for any member of the public completely free of charge, which is weird, just to come in and walk around. And the rumor is that years ago it was an old kind of halfway house, and a load of highwaymen were hanged in the barn there, and their ghosts haunt it. I was maybe 17, or I went down with a few friends. It was like a Wednesday night in December or something. No reason whatsoever. Went down about 8 o'clock, and he opens the door. He's as creepy as you can imagine him to be. Mm-hmm. And he takes us into the barn, and there's a hole in the floor that from the first floor, which you do not know where it goes. At all. There's no safety. But then he was like, do you want to do a Ouija board?
Fucking no.
And it was kind of
absolutely
this building's in the top 3 most haunted buildings in Britain or some shit like that.
I want to know who compiles that list.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Maybe it was Derek Akora back in his period. But I'd never done a Ouija board before, and I was obviously feeling like Billy Big Bollocks. Yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. So kind of we're standing looking at each other, and he's asking the cliche questions is there anybody there? Can you hear us? What is your purpose for being here? Gradually just starts moving his hand towards the little counter, and I'm like, dude, it's not moving. You're quite clearly doing that. And he looked he had under the table he had one of those magnet coins things where he's obviously control. I mean, this guy's in his 70s, so I'm kind of dude, this quite clearly not what it is. And he kept kind of there were a couple of girls in our group, and he kept kind of being yeah, it really feeds off female energy. So if you guys stand in here with me, and the guys go outside, you'll see they'll be able to tell you what they feel. And I was like, dude, I don't.
So it's creepy in a very different way.
Yeah, I think he was the only demon in that.
That is the maddest twist. I did not expect that.
But it was kind. I don't know. It was just this kind of like why it clearly wasn't a tourist attraction because he wasn't capitalising on it. He was literally just saying, "Come round mine, yeah, whenever.
Come round mine and we'll hang out."
Just come to. I was like, dude, I rang you on a Wednesday night, like 8 o'clock. Said, can a bunch of teenagers you've never met come to literally your house and walk around looking for a ghost? And he's just been, sound, stay. He was like, you can stay here if you like. And the rooms in that house have not been touched for 70 years. Creep, like children's toys from like 70 years ago.
Mate.
Just left. And he's like, some of those are my family. Some of those were from the children that used to live here. Nobody knows what happens to them. And he's like, dude, like you live here by yourself, getting quote unquote raped by a succubus every single night, and you haven't tried to sell the joint.
I mean, if it's still there, sounds like it might be a good studio space.
Yeah. Get in touch.
There is one thing about staying overnight. You are going to be sexually assaulted by a ghost.
But the acoustics in the barn are phenomenal.
So it's really worth it. That reminds me of there was a Red Hot Chili Peppers documentary, Funky Monks, I think it was, and they talked about when they were recording, they had like. Well, I mean, they were doing a lot of heroin at the time. But I think John Frusciante said he fucked a ghost.
So, he instigated it? Or
I mean, it's consensual by the sound of things. But
I wonder how that conversation would go down.
I'm not going to try and imitate a ghost right now. I think I was probably embarrassed myself.
Weird.
I don't think I can top your story. I mean, that was quite a twist there.
It was just a bit creepy, really.
And that's the thing about all these. Normally, they're just shows the horror of humanity, really, rather than being a ghost. It's normally some weird fuck trying to get something out of it.
Literally, yeah.
Derek Akora, I'm looking at you. I mean, he's probably a ghost now himself.
We named a band after him once, and I was like 17. We were in a band called Akora, and it was like.
I was about to drop that fact if you didn't.
It was like this gimmick shit of like. People, like I used to play it off when I found out, because I think I saw the name Derek Akora on like a Sky TV guide at 2 a.m. I'd never watched it or heard of him, and I was like, that sounds like a post-hardcore edgy
heavy
band name.
Yeah.
So fuck it, let's do it. And then we had a song called like "Give It Up, Derek, We Know You're Lying," and we were trying to like instigate this kind of beef with him, and obviously he never responded to it. No.
That you know of. Maybe his diss track.
True, yeah.
You could have heard it.
True, maybe he's waiting for me the day I check out.
Wicked. So Liam, you got no ghost stories to
I
tell?
can't top that. No, I'm quite boring when it comes to ghosts. Unfortunately, I've had no encounters.
Well, we can keep hoping that one day
it might happen.
are touched up by a ghost.
Yeah. I mean, it's there on the bucket list. Why not?
Sweet. Well, thanks for joining me this week. We'll end on that bombshell. That was really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
So this week on my trip down memory lane, I picked an incredible song by an incredible band, Signals, who are a Southampton, almost like semi-legendary Southampton band. The band were Ellie Price, Mikey Webber, Ryan Beauchamp, and Alex Van Blair. They were all really great at their instruments. They had a really nice nature. They were probably the most wholesome band to go and see live. You know, just like a good vibe, well performed. Everything's just fantastic, really. And in the studio, it was super fun for me because I got to get a little bit more experimental. So why they didn't really get the attention that I think a lot of people thought they deserved or anticipated happening at some point was their almost blunt refusal to write a pop song. They were focused very much on writing something with artistic merit, there was kind of like, you know, pushing the boundaries of what they could do and play, and they weren't kind of too interested in traditional song structures or staying in one tempo or one key or, you know, anything normal like that. They wanted to kind of push the envelope, and what resulted is some really interesting, innovative, alternative pop music. So the song I've chosen is called Lungs Apart, which I'm pretty sure hasn't actually been released. But I did ask at least one member if they minded me talking about it and putting it on the podcast, and they were open to the idea. So maybe this is a world premiere of a song that was recorded about 5 years ago. But I've just had the session open, and having talked about this kind of idea of pushing the envelope and innovating, it's funny how much of it is just using stock Logic plugins. There's very little kind of additional stuff going on. There's like a reverb for drums, a reverb for vocals, and one delay, and it's just kind of turned up and down, automated as required. It's a lot of it's about capturing the ambience of the room as they were performing in it, or just capturing the performance with the right effects at the time. So this, for me, listening back, one thing that jumped out at me is this is at the real kind of peak of my obsession with trying to make snares sound like white noise. I'm obsessed with this kind of like spushy sound, and in this instance I captured it by having a mic just under Ryan's bum while he's playing, pointed at the kick and the snare, and running through an LA2, hitting it really hard so that it was kind of like bouncing all the time. It kind of syncs with the track, and you get this cool burst of white noise whenever the snare's in, a little bit of kick ambience in there and stuff. So it's super fun. A lot of the kind of drum sound is that room sound with some compression, and it kind of going through it. It's such a simple session, but I still think it sounds like a really complex, interesting song to listen to. There's lots going on. They're a band that are just brilliant at that kind of ear candy thing where, you know, things just sound interesting, and there's a little percussive bit at the right time, or there's a little melodic refrain or a little counter melody or something will pop in, and it's a great song by a band that I thought were really special, and kind of saddens me that they didn't explode and more people didn't get to enjoy them. But they were an excellent band. So let me know what you think about it, but I think the song's really special. So yeah, enjoy.
It's not apart, but it's been weeks since I've slept, and you should recognize what you're doing. All these secrets you've kept, you could call it art, but it's been months since you've tried to find a meaning behind these causes you decide. You break commitments, they're hanging by a thread, and old habits die hard. It's not what you did, it's what you said, so I'll go all out. Chase your tail till it's hard to see a circle, breathing shadows in the dark, breathing shadows in the dark. I know there's hope yet, you can choose. I know that you can start anew. I know there's hope yet, you can choose. I know that you can start Cause I overheard you, words under your breath, and I cannot keep up. It's not what you did, it's what you said, so I won't succumb. Your thoughts are not mine, I could not tread lighter. Darling, if I try, inhaling lungs apart, but it's been weeks since I slept, and you should recognize what you're doing. All these secrets you've kept, you could call it art, but it's been months since you tried to find the meaning behind these causes you it will fix itself as